Mr. True Nightmares, Episode 24. We had a happy family. I was born in the city of Balhik in Bulgaria. The place we lived was in the middle of the forest, an inherited house from my grandfather and grandmother. I was a fearless child. I used to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and play outside with the children of our neighbors until 21 in the evening. The game we played the most was hide and seek. Especially during the summer, we would gather around 21 to play hide and seek in the dark, and I enjoyed it, even though it was a bit scary. Imagine what child hides in the forest late at night. I guess I was a somewhat fearless child, or at least I thought so. Every evening after playing the game, I would comfortably return home until one night we used to throw our garbage next to our house because in her area, and the government didn't pay much attention to it, being a deserted place. That night I had a strange feeling inside me. I didn't know exactly what it was, but it felt odd. I had immersed myself back into the depths of the forest during the hide and seek game, leaning against the roots of a tree, waiting for someone to find me. Then I heard a whisper, "Look behind you." I didn't understand what it was, and I thought, as fearless as I was, that I didn't really know what fear was. I turned around, but there was no one. I thought maybe a friend was playing a prank on me, so I called out, "I can see you, come out." Even though I couldn't see anyone, I said that, hoping someone was there. Then I noticed something strange. I couldn't hear the voices of my friends anymore. I thought they had given up on the game, and to find them, I decided to leave the forest. However, I couldn't leave. I was walking, but it felt like the path was never ending. I tried to walk faster, but the path seemed endless. Then I started running, but I couldn't escape. I thought I was lost, and my breath was getting heavy. I sat down and started crying. My only fear was not being able to see my family, and I was afraid they would scold me later. I heard another whisper, "Look behind you," but this time it sounded like it was right next to my ear. I turned around, and I saw him. He was a tall, dark figure with no visible face. At that moment, I truly understood what fear was. I was speechless, unable to control my breath, and my heart felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. I tried to open my mouth, but it felt heavy, and I couldn't. I was staring at him while moving backward. He didn't react. He just stood there, watching me. After about 15 seconds of staring at each other, he started walking towards me, and I moved backward. He was taking one step for every 5 of mine, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. Suddenly he started running, and I turned around to run away, but he was in front of me again. I don't know what to do. He didn't react, just stood there, and I was about to faint. We stared at each other for about 15 seconds again, and then he started walking towards me. I was moving backward, and his single step was almost equal to my 5, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. Then he suddenly started running again, and I started running backward and panicked. I felt like I couldn't escape. I thought I was going crazy. Then I found myself in the middle of the road. In front of our house, I ran towards the door, and when I entered, the weight on my lips was gone. My father immediately took me to the hospital to stitch my split lip. When the doctor asked what happened, my family didn't know, and my father started explaining the situation. The nurses took me to the emergency room to stitch my lip. After they stitched my lip, we returned home. I fell asleep immediately due to the effect of the anesthesia. When I woke up in the morning, my mother took me to a spiritual healer to untie my tongue. The healer started reading, gave me an amulet and some holy water, telling my family that I had been frightened by spirits and demons, and they should be cautious. 3 months later, I could speak again, but that happy child was no more. I became a fearful child who wouldn't even put his head out of the door. My family did their best to make me forget, buying me small gifts, and I loved playing the guitar. My father struggled to buy me a small guitar for a child, and I played and tried to distract myself. However, those 3 months were tough due to financial difficulties. My parents couldn't go to work because I was scared, and we were running out of supplies. One day, my father told me that I needed to be brave and that they were struggling to provide for our family. One day, my father said, "Okay, son, you need to be brave now. I know you are not as scared anymore." But in reality, I was still terrified. The next day, I woke up and nobody was home. I dressed up and took my guitar, pretending to play. Then the phone rang. It was a woman from Germany. She asked if I was Haddis, and I said no. I'm her son Ismail. She introduced herself as my aunt, Miriam from Germany, and she said she was at the bus station in Baltic. She wanted to visit, didn't have tea with my mother. I said sure, and come over. The bus station was only a 15-minute drive from our house, but an hour passed, and she didn't arrive. I sat down with my guitar, pretending to play and sing to distract myself. Then the doorbell rang, and my aunt was there. We went inside, and she began telling stories of her days in Germany. Suddenly, there was another knock on the door. I went to answer it, and there was an old man, a shepherd, asking for water. He had walked a long way and needed water for his men. My aunt about him, and she was surprised, asking if there was a shepherd here, because there shouldn't be. I replied that I had never seen one, and she went to get water for him. After the old man drank the water and took his medicine, he thanked me and left, saying, "May those who give water have many blessings." I returned inside, and my aunt asked if there was a shepherd around here. I told her it was the first time I had seen one. She went to check but found nothing. Then the phone rang, and it was my mother. I told her that my aunt from Germany was here, and she was surprised, saying, "How can that be? We are on our way, and we will be home soon." I was shocked, realizing that the woman I thought was my aunt wasn't, and I started crying. My mother told me to lock the door and wait for them. I did as she said. My mother was alarmed, asking who the woman was. I explained everything, and we checked the house. Nothing was missing. Later, my mother took out the photo album, and we saw a picture of a man with a cane. My mother explained that he was my grandfather, who died in the village, and I had never seen him. The old man who asked for water was my grandfather, now at the age of 21. Writing this, tears filled my eyes. I understood one thing. I was no longer a brave child.